Welcome to episode 64 of The Cover 2 presented by Tigervision. I'm with Grayson Mann. I'm Patrick Neal as always. I got to be careful not to fist bump the ring there. Grayson got his ring over the weekend.
I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but yeah, it happened.
Looks good. It looks good. He's got bling now. So, but great news for you.
Great news.
There was some great news for some teams, maybe not for others, with the trade deadline happening yesterday. So I guess we'll kind of do our studs and duds thing that we have been doing, but maybe lean a little more towards the trade deadline. There wasn't much that happened.
It was a pretty quiet stretch. Everyone was free, like, well, this could be a really intense trade deadline, and nothing happened.
Yeah, and maybe talk a little bit about what happened this past weekend as well. So,
Yes.
what do you want to first talk about here, Grayson?
I think we should probably start with what broke last night with Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
Everybody's favorite second chances head coach getting fired. First NFL head coach to be fired this year. I'm pretty sure we might have called that in the offseason.
I don't remember. I feel like I probably would have said Jonathan Gannon was going to be the first guy fired, but
McDaniels probably wasn't far off.
Yeah. Well, we gotta look back at the tape. Go watch the tape again. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders have not been great. McDaniels has not been great as a head coach. It's been all downhill, honestly, since he got fired. I mean, they made the playoffs with Rich Bisaccia, who was a good coach for him in the interim.
I still don't know why he wasn't the top choice.
I don't either. But, yeah, it hasn't gone well for him. And now at 1 a.m. in the morning, Eastern time. So, we were definitely awake. Actually, I might have been awake studying for accounting. But
I was awake watching, I think, The Office. So
great way to spend your time.
Great way.
But yeah, Josh McDaniels is gone now. I think their OC and their GM are also gone as well. So Raiders are doing a clean sweep. Mark Davis.
And they're, I checked their record and they're 3-5, and so it's like they're close. They really are. But a lot of the reasons the Raiders are 3-5 and maybe not 5-3 or 4-4 and in the hunt for the playoffs is some of the mistakes that Josh McDaniels has made in his tenure as the Raiders head coach. The culture, from what I've seen on Twitter, just from reporters, is pretty horrid. I mean, Mark Davis was bringing in veteran players to discuss what the culture was like, trying to assess where to move forward. So it's very early, honestly. 3-5, and there's already coaches getting on the cutting room floor. So it just shows you how bad I think his tenure was. And I doubt we'll probably ever see him as a head coach again. Most don't get a third chance to be a head coach, but we'll see. Maybe he'll have another 4 years in New England.
Maybe he goes back there and helps out the offense there.
God,
but
they need it.
Funny enough, their linebackers coach who's taken over as the interim head coach looks like Rich Bisaccia.
Oh,
Antonio
really?
Pierce. If you look up a photo of him right now, he's got the goatee working. He low-key looks like him a little bit. But, so they're going to go forward with their linebackers coach. They're actually also going to go forward with Aiden O'Connell as their starting quarterback. It got announced today, Wednesday, that they're benching Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
They're kind of saying, screw you, Josh McDaniels. All the decisions you made this offseason, we're deciding to go against that. We want to see what we have with Aiden O'Connell. Maybe he won't overthrow Davante Adams 2 or 3 times for massive touchdowns. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe he'll get Jacoby Myers involved.
Maybe Hunter Renfrow might.
Maybe. But, speaking of Davante Adams, he was very much not happy.
No, yeah, I think he said some pretty non-PG stuff on the sidelines as he slammed his helmet to the ground. Maybe might have pushed a cameraman to the ground as well. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it's safe to say it would not be the first time. That's right. He's a little frustrated.
Yeah, but speaking of Davante Adams, he was one of the players rumored to potentially be traded before the deadline, and it seems like the Raiders shut that down. It seems honestly like some teams may have called him, they just
didn't pick up the phone.
Didn't even call him back. They ghosted him.
So
I'm a little confused because obviously Davante Adams went to the Raiders because Derek Carr was there. Derek Carr is no longer on the Raiders, and he doesn't seem happy in Las Vegas. So I don't know especially when you're probably not making the playoffs, especially in a loaded AFC. You have an unhappy star wide receiver. He's still very, very good. You could get, I think, at least a first-round pick for him.
Probably.
I don't know why you wouldn't do that if you're the Raiders.
I don't know. I think it's very much the stubbornness of this organization trying to say, hey, we can totally fix this. Yeah, let's have a disgruntled wide receiver on our roster for the remainder of the year. Could have gotten a valuable first-round draft pick to maybe a team like, let's just throw New England out there that desperately needs one. Could have potentially been a top 5 pick.
I think the Jets were also involved.
Yeah.
The Lions, it could have been good, although they got Donovan Peoples-Jones.
They
so
did.
Basically Devontae
Basically
Adams.
the same thing.
But, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. Although I'm not an NFL owner, I'm not a GM, I'm not involved with the Raiders at all, so, maybe they know what they're doing. Although, based off recent years, I'm going to say they probably don't.
Their track record doesn't really appear to be as strong as they might think.
Yeah, but speaking of the deadline, one of my duds that I had written down here is just the NFL trade deadline in general.
Very boring.
Because nothing really happened.
I don't know what it is about the NFL versus the NBA trade deadline, but the NBA trade deadline, I am like monitoring Twitter like it's attached to my hip because I think just the way they maybe advertise it, and they have a whole trade deadline show and stuff. I don't know if the NFL does. I think they probably do.
I think they...
On the NFL Network, maybe?
Probably on NFL Network. I think ESPN had one maybe an hour before the deadline ended.
Okay.
But yeah, after last year there were a ton of deals that got done. But this year, the main ones were the 49ers got Chase Young, who for, a third-round pick? Very good value. He's a free agent after this year, so they may pay him, they may not. But look, a third-round pick to the 49ers, when you're already that good a roster, probably isn't too much.
Probably not. I mean, they're willing probably to pay the price on a player that, at his full potential, is a top 5 draft pick.
Yeah, and he hasn't been quite the sensation that I think a lot of people thought he was going to be, but he's still a very good defensive end that's going to go opposite of Nick Bosa. The last 3 weeks, the 49ers have kind of struggled, especially along getting Nick Bosa help. The Bengals on Sunday kind of took it to him in the run game, and Nick Bosa was kind of the only one getting pressure. So I think that's a fantastic pickup for him. Similar with the Bears, getting Montez Sweat as well.
Yeah, I see a lot of people trashing this Bears pick, but it sounds like they're probably going to get him long term. So it isn't as egregious as people are probably making it out to be. Maybe because they thought it was the wrong team or the bad fit. But just to circle quickly back to your Chase Young situation, he and Nick Bosa were the centerpieces of a really talented Ohio State defense. So if they can potentially get that, or maybe Young can thrive as the second option there, and what the 49ers do on defense, I mean, their best pass rusher, no offense, it was Cleveland Farrell. And we've seen how his NFL career has panned out.
Yeah. Shout out Clemson. But
Shout out.
Getting back to the Bears with Montez Sweat, I think a lot of it was kind of the Bears have the most cap room this coming offseason. So, with Montez Sweat also being a free agent, they could have potentially just waited to get him. Although the Bears don't like their second-round picks.
Right. And this will probably essentially be maybe a number 1 pick with the Bears, with the way their season's going.
Yeah.
So,
and
maybe essentially they traded a late round first.
This is true. So if you're a Bears fan, you hope that you can sign Montez Sweat to a long-term deal. Otherwise, it might be like another Claypool situation. Montez Sweat is going to be more impactful, hopefully.
Probably more
for the Bears.
Willing to put more effort into.
But yeah, you don't want to see another second-round pick go to waste. They do have 2 first-round picks, however. So, maybe they were like, you know what, we got this extra first-round pick. We can maybe afford to move on from some draft capital to kind of bolster this squad right now, because it's a bottom 5 roster in the NFL, in all honesty. And Montez Sweat is a proven player. So I think good pickup for them, even if, they could have potentially gotten him without giving up a pick.
Yeah.
But, maybe you want to see, before Fields got injured, there were, some signs of positivity in the organization, the way they were playing. So maybe you want to see how strongly you can finish off the season, even though I don't know if they're a playoff team or not. But
probably not. But in the NFC, it may not take much. So we'll have to find out.
Yeah. Other deals that got done. This happened about a week or so ago, but the Eagles went back to the Titans, picked off more talent from their roster and got Kevin Byard for scraps. That's going to help their safety, their secondary a little bit, which hasn't been as good as it was last year. But they got him for,
I think it was a 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah.
It was very much a virtual robbery.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Other deals that got done: Ezra Cleveland to the Jaguars from the Vikings.
I really liked that deal because I think with what Jacksonville's recognizing, I know their offensive line isn't terrible, but they did lose Jawan Taylor. They had some pieces get rotated around, so just adding that extra piece, especially as a team that's just won 5 straight and is really, and we're going to talk about Jacksonville later, just from my studs and duds, but man, I really thought that was one of the more underrated moves that happened during the trade deadline.
Yeah. The Eagles traded Terrell Edmonds and a 5th and 6th round pick. So
Wow.
Not much.
High waiver.
And then Leonard Williams also went to the Seahawks for a 2nd round pick.
Another piece I really like too.
Yeah. But there were a few teams that didn't do anything major that I thought maybe would. The Falcons could have done something. The Broncos, I think, could have traded a lot of pieces but didn't.
Maybe a receiver piece.
Yeah, or maybe Pat Surtain. I don't know. Maybe I thought the Lions could have maybe done something a little bit bigger with where they are right now. But other than that,
Maybe the Broncos, because they have just won 2 straight. It's like, oh, maybe we have something here. Let's try to figure this out.
Yeah.
So
Beat the
we'll
Chiefs
see.
as well.
They beat the Chiefs, and they're going to play the Bills. So if they back-to-back beat 2 of the better teams in the AFC,
there you go.
You might have something there, Sean Payton.
Yeah. But do we want to get to some of the games?
Yeah, let's do that.
Which one do you want to start with here?
I'm going to start with Jahmyr Gibbs in Monday Night Football, getting 26 touches on the ground, 156 yards. I watched this with my friend who needed Jahmyr Gibbs to go off in fantasy to win, so that was pretty cool to see. Very good stat line for Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs. 26 attempts, 152 yards on the ground, and 1 touchdown.
Nice.
And he had 11 touches against the Ravens the week prior, 8 against the Packers 2 weeks ago. He pretty much has a third of his carries in one game. They really used him with David Montgomery out. I think Lions fans were probably praising Dan Campbell. Finally, they've used the running back that has so much potential and just his ability to break tackle after tackle and gain those extra yards. It adds an element to this Lions offense with the play action of Sam Laporta and guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. This might be the game that goes, we probably need to use this kid a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get to watch much of the game, but yeah, I think they kind of, everybody has obviously been a little frustrated, especially fantasy owners with the way the Lions have used Jahmyr Gibbs, similar to the way that Arthur Smith likes to use all of his players in Atlanta. But yeah, I think a large part of that is because David Montgomery is out. I'm interested to see how, with Montgomery coming back, I believe next week, because I think they're on bye this week.
Yeah.
I want to see how that plays out. Do you think Gibbs continues to get more of the workload as they continue?
I don't know, because Montgomery hasn't done anything to justify giving Gibbs more touches, just the way he's played. I think that's kind of the Lions, the way they're looking at it is, hey, we might be screwing some fantasy overs over. This is a great problem to have. We have a rookie waiting in the wings that we know is talented, and it clearly showed on Monday. But we also have a really capable starting back. So maybe they're looking at it as, hey, we have a 2-back situation here. Might as well use it. It's not like they can just shut Montgomery down. I mean, let's see. With David, I think he's got some sort of career highs here.
Yeah,
but
he's been very good. They've put him in the Jamal Williams role. Jamal Williams famously last year had a ton of touchdowns because they would just give him the ball on the goal line. He'd go to work. But yeah, he's been really, really good.
Yeah, it was really a fun watch. I just love watching the Lions offense, not on Sunday against the Ravens a couple weeks ago, but just overall in general, they've really found a way to carve this up, and they're one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Didn't think we'd be saying that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, we probably wouldn't be saying that.
Yeah, I think going into this year, a lot of people had high expectations. But one team I want to talk about, I'm wearing them. So
yes, they're back.
Yeah, in all honesty, I did not expect this. Joe Burrow looked completely healthy. We talked a lot early in the season about how, I honestly was like, I don't know how you recover from this. Although, shame on me because the Bengals do this every year. They start slow, everybody panics, and they're like, the Bengals maybe aren't that good a team. And they didn't look like it. Joe Burrow was not healthy. They were not going under center. He was not able to escape in the pocket. And what does he do? Like the third play of this game, he escapes 2 or 3 sacks, rolls out, hits T. Higgins, who also hasn't been able to do much, but he looked good this game. He looked a little healthier.
It was a vintage Joe Burrow play.
Exactly. And yeah, now they're 4-3. They're tied with the Browns and the Steelers in the AFC North for second, although they have lost every single AFC North game they've played. So that's a bit of an issue, and you want to work on that. But Joe Burrow looks healthy. And yeah, this offense looked really, really good. The run game was working very, very well. Joe Mixon looked good. Jamar Chase had a fantastic game, as always. I did want to see the Bengals add a piece before the deadline. Irv Smith and Drew Sample do not cut it at tight end for me. It's Bozo number 1 and Bozo number 2. Irv Smith, every year is like, oh, maybe he's going to finally break out, although he had a very costly fumble, honestly, before the end of the half that cost the Bengals some points. I would have liked to seen a tight end or maybe a safety getting traded here, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Also, at the beginning of the season when we had our bold takes for the season,
right,
I said the Bengals were going to win the Super Bowl after adding a piece midway through the season, and that has not happened. So, a little unfortunate. But they beat the 49ers, who have, up to these past few weeks, been the best team in the league.
And I think they're also nursing some injuries, so it might not be as fair to go hit the panic button for them just yet. Because they are missing, I think, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, and then a couple of pieces here and there that are the centerpiece of this team, or centerpieces. So I'm not panicking just yet on San Francisco. Now, if this turns into 5 straight or maybe 6 straight, then yeah, it's probably time to start panicking.
That would be a huge issue for the 49ers.
It would be. I mean, they're out of first place in the NFC West. Seattle currently holds that spot.
Yep. The Bengals also beat all 4 NFC West teams. That's all 4 of their wins.
There you go.
So
maybe they just need to keep playing those guys.
They potentially.
Yes.
But yeah, Bengals look good. 49ers, not super worried yet, although want to see them get back on track. I think they will, though. What about Kirk Cousins here? I put it in the duds category. It's kind of unfortunate that we put it in the duds category, but
an unfortunate dud.
Yeah. He has confirmed torn his Achilles and is out for the year.
Not Kirko.
Yeah.
Terrible.
He was playing really, really well.
I think he was on track to have the best season of his career. And the Vikings were, I think, now 4-4, so they were starting to figure things out and maybe get back into a spot to be in the playoffs. Maybe probably not win the division over Detroit, but I think they're currently the 7th seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so if the season were to end today, I think Josh Dobbs would be taking over as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it may be Jaron Hall that plays this week. Josh Dobbs was also a deal we forgot to mention when we were talking about the trade deadline, but he has gone to the Vikings. Yeah, I mean, it's a little unfortunate for Kirk. He is, I think 34, 35?
Yeah.
Around that. This was the last year of his deal. I don't know if the Vikings are going to re-sign him or not, but depending on how he recovers from this Achilles injury, maybe he trains with Aaron Rodgers and is back in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, he looked really good, and I think there will be some teams that probably would shell out some money for him. I know it's Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury, but Derek Carr got a lot of money from the Saints this offseason. So I think there'll still be a market for Kirk Cousins.
I could see a team like San Francisco potentially, if Brock Purdy continues to have this landslide and say, hey, we still have a great roster, let's give Kirk Cousins $25 million a year and have him come be the quarterback. I think that would be something 49ers fans probably wouldn't be like, yeah, all right, yeah, sure.
And maybe with the Falcons as well, Ritter got benched today.
Yeah.
So not great for him, Desmond Ritter, but, Kirk Cousins could maybe come in and do something for them. But yeah, how do you think Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall works out for the Vikings here? You think they make the playoffs?
I'm just really not sure because I think Kevin O'Connell is one of the great coordinators and coaches, one of the better young coaches in this league. And so taking a look at their schedule, just as like let's glance ahead, they play the Falcons on the road on the 5th of November, which is this weekend. And so depending on how Heineke is with the Falcons, that could be something, but I could see that with a quarterback, regardless of who it is, Jaron Hall or Josh Dobbs. You have another quarterback that's inexperienced or a quarterback that has to learn an entirely new playbook in 5 days.
The Baker Mayfield treatment.
Yes, so maybe we'll see something fantastic there. That's a game to watch. They play the Saints at home, which with the offense that the Saints have, I know they dropped 38 in a win this weekend, but we don't really know yet. We don't know if that's consistent or just a uptick to be eventually going back down to earth. They play the Broncos on the road. That's always a tough environment to play in. The Bengals on the road is another tough one. The Lions at home. I mean, I could see 5 wins here maybe, but it just depends on the quarterback performance and how quick Justin Jefferson can get back.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the receiving talent between him, Addison, T.J. Hawkinson.
KJ Osborne's not bad either.
Yeah, as a third option, he's not bad at all. Between them, there's definitely enough receiving talent to help out, whether it's Josh Dobbs or Jaron Hall. I think they'll probably be a fringe team. I would lean towards they probably just miss it.
Yeah.
Just because I think, whether it's, like the Saints making a late push, the Falcons, the, Buccaneers maybe. I just named all the NFC South teams. But maybe the Rams, although Stafford also has an injury, so
yeah.
Not sure how that's going to affect the Rams. But I don't know. It's interesting. Although their defense has been better this year. So my guess is they just miss out, but
I could see an 8-9 season inbound, and it's just that they have enough talent to maybe next year make a big push with a better quarterback. We'll see if they potentially slip some games here and there, and then they can get a really nice rookie quarterback, maybe Drake May, Bo Nix, Shador Sanders. I'll throw some names out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not Caleb Williams. We know that one. Slotted for
maybe,
number 1.
although Caleb Williams has also struggled a little bit these past few
too.
weeks, so maybe he'll end up sliding. Who knows?
Who knows?
But we got some time until draft time. Is there any other storylines, games you want to talk about here?
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have a question for you. I'm going to pose it to you.
Okay.
Is Jacksonville the best team in football right now?
Ooh. Interesting.
I think probably it's either them or Baltimore in my mind.
My guess, I think I would go with, I would have previously said San Francisco before these last few weeks. I think Baltimore, just Lamar, I think is probably MVP. We mentioned Tyreek Hill, but in all honesty, it's a QB award. I think Lamar might be the MVP frontrunner right now. That defense has been very, very good. I think, I think with Lamar, they have one of the best QBs in the league. Trevor Lawrence is a fantastic QB as well. But the offense has been, kind of revitalized. I think if the Ravens and Jaguars were to play on a neutral site, I think the Ravens might just eke it out. But Jacksonville has been fantastic as well.
Yeah. Well, some of the things that I did a little bit reading before you showed up, and they've won 4 of the 5 games in this 5-game winning streak on the road and away. So they've beaten teams like Buffalo and London, which is kind of a weird spot for any NFL team.
They love London.
They really do. They've beaten teams like Indianapolis. They've beaten the Saints. They've beaten a really good Steelers football team. They're winning games in different ways. Travis Etienne, I think, is starting to have a career year. 7 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. He probably will get his first Pro Bowl appearance coming very soon. Trevor Lawrence is playing pretty efficient football, 70% completion percentage, and a 100.2 passer rating.
Wow.
So I think that this Jacksonville team is getting hot at the right time. It's not like they're peaking, or it's really like they've started to really pick up where they left off from last year, where I think they started something like Detroit in terms of the abysmal record and then found their way into the playoffs. If this Jacksonville team can find a way, and it's going to be tough because Kansas City 6-2, Miami 6-2, Baltimore 6-2. So it's a 4-way tie right now for first place without any tiebreakers involved, just purely on record. If Jacksonville can find a way to be a top seed in this AFC and bring some of the cold weather teams down to Duval, I could see that being a huge advantage.
Duval.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we go, I don't know if I could pull this back up, but I think I'd put him as my 1 seed. As
I
like
think,
a
yeah, you
playoff
did. I
prediction.
definitely remember that.
So I would love that personally. And yeah, I think they're a good team. I think they're going to be a tough out. Doug Peterson's a great head coach. You know, they're a sound team. As long as, you know, Trevor can continue to kind of limit his turnovers,
Yes.
which has been a bit of an issue in the past.
Well, in this stretch too, he's been hurt and he's been trying to take care of the
But they have a
football.
bye this week, so they, you know, they'll
Yeah,
be
they
able to
do.
get healthy. You know, everybody will be able to rest out. They'll be able to get Ezra Cleveland involved, like
Yep.
we mentioned, and yeah.
Their litmus test
I
is
think they'll be
against San Francisco in 2 weeks.
good. Yeah. Ooh.
That's,
that'll be a
that's
good
the
game.
that's the real test right
There
there.
you go. There you go. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about, or we all good here?
Put mayo in your coffee if you get
There
that
you go.
reference.
Yeah, Will Levis had a fantastic game.
Yes.
4 passing touchdowns. First QB, I think it's like him and Marcus Mariota, ironically.
Yeah, the Marcus Mariota
in
game
their
against
debuts.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, there you go. But that'll do it for this episode of The Cover 2 presented by Tigervision. We want to thank you for tuning in. We want to thank Connor for producing in the back.
King.
And yeah, go ahead and share this with your family, friends. Like it up, subscribe to Tigervision, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a good one.